Hey folks, this episode was brought to you by Patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thanks so much to all the patrons out there giving us a couple of dollars a month. We really, really appreciate it, and it goes a long way to making episodes and podcasts like this possible. If you're on the fence about donating, go check it out. A couple of bucks a month will get you access to a Slack channel. A couple more dollars a month gets you access to podcast episodes early. Check it out again at Patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. Enjoy the episode.
Where's Adler? Keith! Visitor Alpha Walton! Get with Visitor Alpha... So the kid got lucky. Visitor Alpha Walton! Get with it! Get with it! Get with it! Get with it! Get with it!
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is another episode of Days of Future Cast, the podcast where we talk about the 90s X-Men animated series. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited because this episode we have a bonus.
I know we have a super secret bonus at the end.
I'm so it's it's like a half hour of bonus. Like it's a full bonus. We're going full bonus.
But don't fast forward to the end or anything. There's still good stuff at the first part of the episode. I mean, I know this is going to be a 5-hour episode, but don't just skip to the last 30
bonus
minutes.
Up front, bonus in the back.
It's a bonus mullet.
Yeah, it's like a mullet on both sides. It is a reverse double mullet. I'm super excited to talk about all this stuff though because we're getting into some primo shit.
But first, let's talk about what we've already learned from the previous episodes.
Absolutely.
Previously on X-Men.
So we've been introduced to the team, and right now that consists of Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Jubilee, and Gambit. I think that's all of the active members.
Yeah,
Beast
Rogue
is still in prison. We haven't seen... Oh yeah, Rogue.
Yeah,
about Rogue.
She's important in this set.
And Beast is still in prison.
Yep.
We know the government is trying to kill all mutants. We know Magneto is trying to kill all governments, and we know Wolverine is trying to crush on Jean. Like that's pretty much our rock scissors paper from last time. If I remember right.
Wolverine is so amazingly insecure in this episode that and I it's been a while since I watched this, so I forgot why he's doing this. But we'll get to it. He's got a really a real scene stealing moment going on. So that's going on, and we're firmly in side quest territory for the X-Men. The 2 episodes we're going to cover today form one complete story, and that's why we're putting them together. But the kind of main plot, everything, the Sentinels and everything have been kind of on hold. We went and checked out Genosha to see what that was like. We had a little Juggernaut fun. We checked out the Morlocks. So they're just kind of introducing the X-Men Rogues Gallery, and not her specific gallery, where she just has pictures of Gambit without his shirt on, taken from a second-story window. But specific, the X-Men's Rogues Gallery, kind of being introduced, and they're introducing another kind of big capital A villain during this arc. We're actually, moving forward with the other kind of major threat other than Magneto that we're going to be dealing with this season.
That's correct. And a quick programming note, we are going to be... This episode and the next one is going to be a little weird. We have 5 episodes left in the main season. We're doing 2 episodes today, and then our bonus episode like we talked about, and then we'll finish the last 3 on the next episode. Yeah. That kind of wraps us up all nice and neat.
And that way we're not stopping in the middle of a storyline. So, like I said, these 2 episodes in this one form a complete story. So this episode we were talking about the Cure and Come the Apocalypse, which is nice because we're... finally being introduced to Apocalypse, who is a villain I have a weird affection for, even though he has a tiny A on his belt and he wears purple lipstick. And then the Pryde of the X-Men pilot, which if anybody, if I can convince anybody who's listening to this to do something they wouldn't ordinarily do, if you have even a modicum of interest in the X-Men, please watch the Pryde of the X-Men pilot. It is so bonkers. It
is so crazy.
We could do a whole show on it. We could do a series on it. It would be, there's a lot to talk about in it. And it is just, the characterization that goes on in that is some of the worst.
I mean, we could do a 6-episode, just characterization, episode 1, costumes, episode 2, voice acting, episode 3.
I thought you were going to say a 6-episode, just episode 1, Dazzler. You know, and
or we could do it. We could break it down that way too.
Because everyone is so weird in that series. But
oh man,
that's kind of the pilot. So the reason it happened, it's not specifically a pilot for the X-Men animated series. It was a pilot for a X-Men animated series that never really took off, even though it kind of had surprisingly kind of long roots because the X-Men arcade game is based on it. It is officially an expansion of that universe, which is pretty cool, and it's worth talking about. And the animated series that we're talking about generally for the show probably wouldn't exist without Pryde of the X-Men.
And I got into a little rabbit hole today when I saw in the wiki that the arcade game was based on Pryde of the X-Men, and I started looking around for voice acting on IMDb and came across. Have you seen this fighting game on the PlayStation? I sent you a link to it earlier today. Like, it looks awful, and I want to play it immediately.
I watched the. Well, here's what we're gonna do. All right, I'm gonna make a double promise, and the actual thing about this might come out before this episode does. So if this might end up being old news, but so I did watch that. I was familiar with that. Come on, Abject Suffering, and talk about that. Let's do a crossover episode.
Let's do a crossover episode. That would be great.
Yeah, we'll do that because we're doing about a guest episode per month now, and my roommate Will is recording with us Monday, and then the next guest episode we'll do that X-Men fighting game.
Awesome. So, we can totally do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and again, that might be old news by the time this episode actually comes out, or it might be in the future. Who knows? But yeah, that is bonkers. The intro to that is so good. They're gross.
Absolutely,
They're real liquidy. They look like nail polishes.
It's super weird.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man, it's so bizarre. Well, let's get into the 2 real episodes, and then we'll talk about all of the Pryde of the X-Men after our character study break. Do you want to take us into episode number 9?
Yeah, we're talking about episode XM109, The Cure, original air date February 20th, 1993. A doctor at the Muir Island Mutant Research Center claims to have found a cure for the mutant gene, and Rogue travels, and not for the mutant Jean Grey, because the only cure for her is pictures of Cyclops with his shirt off. So Rogue travels to the island in hopes of getting rid of her mutant abilities, but instead of a cure, Rogue finds that Apocalypse and Mystique are behind the experiments and are harvesting mutant powers. Now the X-Men, along with Cable, must race to the island and save their fellow team member before it is too late.
That plot summary is just devious. Like, none of that stuff at the end happens.
That is totally true. This is a slow burn. It feels a little bit like 1.5 episodes stretched into 2, but then when you watch the second
there's a lot of extra stuff that happens that I don't really care about at all in these 2 episodes.
Well, and the second one feels like it's cramped. Like that's dealing with such a huge X-Men story. Like Apocalypse coming and putting together the Horsemen and everything. That was like the entire second or third arc of X Factor, and was such a big deal. And here it happens in a montage. Like, it is the pacing on these 2 episodes is out of control. But the good thing, the reason why I like these episodes, are these ridiculous character moments we get. The intro to this episode is great. Because we're introduced to Warren Worthington, which fans will know as Angel, who is in his cool chalet. And he's at his freestanding bookshelf. He has a bookshelf in the middle of the room. And all of the books are DNA Volume 1, DNA Volume 2, DNA Volume 3.
Oh my god, 3. I didn't even see that. Are you serious?
Yeah. It's so good. He's just got the complete works of DNA. And then Cable.
God, that's got to be so out of date now, because I have the 2010 DNA series, and it's much different.
I remember my parents bought one from a traveling salesman. That's how old our set of DNA is.
Hey, you're dating yourself there, sir.
Yeah. So as he's at the bookshelf, because he's going to read his lady DNA Volume 4. Cable kind of has a little window in the books, and is challenges him. He's like, "Are you Adler?" Because we've heard about this Adler character actually before, I believe. I think that he mentioned it when in the Wild Man of Borneo section when he shows up. He asks about Adler.
Adler is the guy that supposedly designed the necklaces that we saw that tamped down on the mutant powers in Genosha. Yeah,
and so they get into this little fight. He just reaches through, and Warden Worthington shoots him. They get into a fight, and he throws Angel out onto the off the deck into the snow, where he sinks rapidly into the snow like he's made of hot iron.
Yeah, that's a weirdly bizarre scene. And then he stands up and his mutant power is released, and the sound effects here are great because apparently all of these wings have bones.
Yes.
And when he releases the wings, they all crackle.
Yeah,
like
take off your goddamn jacket.
Yeah, what are you doing, man?
It looks so painful. You had to push through a parka.
You already look like a male model. Wings aren't going to hurt you, dog. No. Like, just let them out.
You're okay. And then they get into this fight. They fly up, and Angel's got a gun, because he always has a gun. And Cable has a gun. And they get in this little fight. And somehow Angel still kind of doesn't get destroyed by Cable.
He, like, gets shot, and then Cable... when Cable starts interrogating Warren's main squeeze, who is still there, like not just taking all of this like pretty normally. Yeah. Like she's apparently suffered mutant attacks before. But Cable starts interrogating her, and she's like, "Oh my God, Warren!" And he says, "Don't worry, my gun was set to stun." And I'm like, "Why do you even have that setting?"
Yeah, and also like I don't know. It seemed this is not very subtle, Cable. I guess Cable leaves because he knows what's up. Like he probably could have taken Angel, because Angel is trash in a fight.
Yeah, Angel has the worst superpower in my mind. Like, just wings and the ability to fly. Like, literally all he does is just, like, fly other people around. Like, he's kind of like, when Wolverine needs a ride, they call up Angel.
when they don't want to throw him somewhere. There's an early cover where he's carrying a bazooka. Like,
nice.
It's just like he's... and that's something I could do. Like, he doesn't have to be an X-Men for that. And then in the comics, they've done all kinds of, like, dumb attempts to give him more interesting powers, but those suck, too. They all are based on the fact that he actually is an angel. But the fact that his focus in this really reminds me that this is kind of related to X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Like, this has a lot of the same plot elements of that movie, this episode specifically.
It really does.
So Adler's in Scotland, and then Xavier and Moria are talking. Moria McTaggart, who we were introduced in the last episode, I want to say.
And I might cut in a little bit of her audio here, because now I'm getting good at audio editing and I can do those things. And because she has some of the most atrocious voice acting and accent that I've ever heard. It's so bad.
You created the Center for Mutant Research, my dear Moira. Can't you demand to review Dr. Adler's work?
I would if I could. But he's not really part of the Center. He pays me well for everything. His one request was to be left alone.
Everyone leans into their nationality a lot in the X-Men, just kind of in general. And that's going to be a real thing in Pryde of the X-Men. In the most incredible way.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Xavier and Moira walk up to this lab/base or whatever, and his first thing to do, instead of knocking on the door, is to scan and try to read the mind of anybody that's home, which is like the most invasive motherfucking thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like if you just came to my door and like didn't knock and then started reading my mind, it was like, wow, that dude's having some weird masturbatory fantasies right now. Like, it's rude. Xavier, get out of my head.
Time. Yeah. And he does it, and he gets this feedback. Like, he gets this little picture of Mystique, a little picture of Apocalypse, and then he kind of passes out, and doesn't do that. And when they knock on the door, they, visitors of Bolton. Like, the Dr. Adler, which is, a very strong German name, has the thickest Einstein accent, and essentially just looks like Einstein anyway. And then they just kind of walk away. Like, they're like, hey, we should let people choose if they have the cure. And then he says, like, don't say cure, it's not a cure. And that's just, like, people stating the theme of the episode over and over and over. But I'm glad to get away from Muir Island for this section, because then we get to one of my favorite scenes. And this is like Wolverine's insecurity breakdown.
Yeah, where the X-Men are rebuilding the mansion from the last episode, where Juggernaut came up and just basically trashed the whole place. And one of my favorite bits here, before we get to Wolverine's insecurity, is that they are all in costume.
Yeah.
With the exception of Wolverine. Like, do you think like that's like one of Xavier's policies? Like, if you're at the mansion and you're working, you have to be in the costume.
Yeah,
like, you have to be. That's their flair.
Uniform. Yeah. It's all part of the uniform. Troops. So they're rebuilding it, and they're all just doing it in a real flashy, like, let's demonstrate our powers way anyway. But Wolverine is just walking around fucking, like, wolf-splaining everything to everyone. Like, it is ridiculous. And it's like, I honestly couldn't remember, like, what is this guy's problem? Like, I was trying to, like, everyone has been at a work situation or a party where there's a guy doing this shit, where he's just, like, walking around supervising, like, oh, that's pretty good. Do you want me to put some nails in there? That cement's pretty thick. Oh, do you want to stack these boards a little bit more, correct? And sometimes it happens when someone's just very excited about a project, and they should still shut the fuck up. Like, even if it's for good reasons. But this is not good reasons. This feels like it is some kind of weird, like, he's just trying to get into a fight. And it never really pays off.
I didn't understand what, like, I actually kind of went back to the last episode thinking, like, did I miss something? Like, was there a 5-minute period where Wolverine was mad at everybody? And I don't think that happens. Like, I think he just shows up real mad to come to work, right? Like, that was it.
It would have been a cool, an interesting bit of characterization if this came after all the stuff with him being jealous of Scott. And this is what he does instead of runs off to Canada, is he's just like a huge performative dickhead. And that would have been like, oh, okay, like we all know that guy. But he should have that all out of his system by now, but instead he doesn't. And you know, he's just walking around trying to be like, I like working with my hands, Gene. Like, it's fucking gross. And he starts fucking with Gambit, and then Gambit charges like a brick. Which is like, this is very dangerous, Gambit. In order to...
Yeah, Gambit, we are repairing the mansion. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Like, you need to... All the jokes to that effect show up in the next episode when everybody's got their goof hat on for some reason. But as there's this awkward like thing where Wolverine's being a dick, Jubilee comes up and says, hey, everybody, guess who wants to talk to us? And then the camera stays on her for like a second too long. It is so fucking weird. Like, this scene is amazing. It is really, really good.
I love the line delivery there, too. Like, hey, everybody, guess who wants to talk to us? Like, there's literally... Nobody has ever said that in their entire lives. This is the most awkward bit of dialogue.
And it's also... Professor X wants to talk to you all the time. It happens constantly. He also talks to you with his brain. So
he is absolutely listening in on this conversation that you guys are having right now.
He is controlling Wolverine like a puppet and fulfilling all of his handyman fantasies. So...
when I get jealous, I just take over Wolverine's body and act like a dick for a little while.
Yeah. And then when I actually want to, like, you know, make out, I'll take over, you know, somebody else's body who actually gets to, like, you know, release this seething sexual tension that is turning him into a jerk.
He'll definitely take over Jean's body so he can make out with Cyclops, right? Like, that's probably canon.
Oh, yeah. And you know what actually is canon? Do you know about this? That Professor X... like, had a thing for Jean when she first came to the mansion?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the context for that was.
There's no context.
Because it came up recently. That was like, is that a recent thing? Or
It's not. It's more recent than you think, though. So, like, what happened is in the early episodes, issues of the X-Men, there's all these scenes where, like, she leaves the room and Professor X is like, how could she love me knowing that I'm an old man and I'm a cripple? And I'm just like, oh, jeez, Stanley. And then, so that happens. And then, flash forward, like, 30 years, and it becomes one of the reasons why Onslaught is there. Like, it ends up being a motivation for Onslaught.
Oh, great. Because he needs more motivation.
Yeah, well, he does. Like, he's sarcastic, but Onslaught has no motivation. Onslaught's terrible. But this wouldn't have been the right thing for him. But there's all these early, like, little panels in those early X-Men where Professor X is perving on Jean. And, like, this is, like, straight up, like, weird power imbalance, huge age difference, just met her, like, in a relationship. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why this is fucking gross. But yeah, it's an exhibit like that. It's exhibit like F in the Professor Xavier is the worst person kind of argument, but it never comes up. Like, nobody is ever like, they're always just like, oh, he's just training kids to go murder each other. Like, that is pretty bad. He's also like a kind of pedophilic perv. In the 60s.
Super, super gross. I wonder, because they cast Sophie Turner as Jean Grey in this next X-Men movie, and she's kind of has a history of playing a character that has weird, pervy relationships with the old men on Game of Thrones. So I wonder if that plotline's going to be explored.
I hope it is not explored like it is in Game of Thrones. That would for some reason, like, keep that. Let's quarantine that stuff in the Game of Thrones averse. So anyway, so what he's saying is that Dr. Adler has found a way to reverse mutation. He's announcing it to everybody, and Rogue goes, huh?
Yeah, you can tell immediately, like, they're hooking this into Rogue, and I like Wolverine's really overly aggressive reaction to this too. Like, nobody on our team is gonna want the cure. Like, dude, like, talk to your teammates. You don't know what's going on.
You don't know anything. You are the worst friend in this thing. And there's a couple good shots too. I think there's a part here where, and this might have happened earlier, but they've set up this Rogue kind of pining really well, where there's a part where Cyclops and Jean walk away holding hands, and like the shot is framed between their hands to Rogue in the background, like Rogue's in focus and Scott and Jean are out of focus, you know. They've done a couple things like this, so she's upset. She obviously is way into this because she's never known a human touch. And if in case we didn't figure it out, which we did, Cyclops and Jean have this kind of like they're lying down on wood.
Not meaning that there is no double entendre there. They're literally lying down on plywood.
Yeah,
in the unfinished mansion,
taking a nap in the middle of fixing their house, and they say like. Scott is an idiot, where he's just kind of like, everyone is fine, you know, and Jean's like, I don't know, I'm worried about Rogue. And he doesn't get it either, because these guys are idiots. But Rogue actually takes off.
Yeah, she takes off in the best way possible, right? Oh, wait, let me not skip
This is before that, yeah, first she steals a convertible. Or takes the X convertible.
She says it's her car. Like, when Gambit jumps in and tries to ride with her, she's like, get out of my car. And I'm like, Rogue... You don't have a job. Nobody's giving you a check paid to Rogue. Did Xavier gift you? Whose name is on the pink slip? Like, I want to see the pink slip.
He pays them in cars. Like there's a whole wing of the mansion that's just like their classic car collection. Like that's what brought them all together. Even when they're fighting, they can bond over their love of classic cars, like Jay Leno.
Every year they're an X-Men, they get a new car. Like normal people get an extra week of vacation. Yep. Very nice. So yeah, she jumps in the car, Gambit jumps in, and this starts a running theme for both of these episodes where Gambit is just relentlessly pursuing Rogue in the creepiest MR way possible. Like,
it is the MR way.
Boy, like, the MR way. This makes me embarrassed to have ever liked Gambit in my entire life. And I already kind of was. This is just way worse.
It is so weird, though, because there's obviously, like... It's gross and MRE. She isn't like not interested in him, right? Like that is like, and in the show, like I think that she like had her druthers, like they would do a bunch of cool makeouts, and in the comics she's very attracted to Gambit. Like that's part of her character. The point is,
I thought in the show she was way more into Cyclops because, like, way back in the first or second episode, she has to do that makeout thing with him to steal his powers to stop Magneto, and like she kind of flirts with him afterwards, but she doesn't do any of that stuff with Gambit.
Well, she flirts with Sentinels, bro. Like, there's like that's part of her Southern Belle characterization. Like,
she's just a flirtatious lady. Okay,
if there's a male, signified anything, like she's gonna flirt a little bit with it because the show writers can't write. So it's not that; it's that her powers make her kill people who she touches, and it's this weird world where like she knows this. Like this scene would only make sense if she had been keeping that power a secret, because Gambit acts like he doesn't know it at all. Like he's just like we can risk it, and it's like, no, dude, like it hurts people really bad. My boyfriend was in a coma. Like it is.
And he's like, well, maybe the kiss would be worth it. And I'm like, Gambit, have you ever kissed anybody before?
Yeah,
or is this
not
your first
worth
time?
It. Like, it's pretty
totally
cool.
not worth it.
Exactly. He thinks that's how girls get pregnant. Like he doesn't. He doesn't. It's like, buddy,
you can blame that on the Louisiana public school system. I'll own that. There's no sex.
Mom and Dad kissed, and that's how they made me. But it is just like it is. I have you kissed a share of ladies, and sometimes it's great. It's never worth being in a coma for. Like I'll go as far as to say I haven't had sex that's worth being in a coma for. Like
how long? How long am I in a coma? Is it a day?
Like an 8-hour coma, sure, but like a day maybe. But like I think that Cody was in a coma for like years because he comes back in the comics. At some point, he shows up, and it's like, oh shit.
Everybody comes back in the comics, though. You're not going to have a flashback without somebody coming back eventually.
But Gambit, it's like more than him being a gross perv ball, which he is, and like just like take no for a goddamn answer, but also think about it for 30 seconds. You colossal moron. Like, what is wrong with you?
He just wants what he can't have. That's the sole problem.
Yeah, just go fucking jelk it, dude. go get some kinetic energy out. Like there's a solution for this.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious too, right? And her name is Storm.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Clear your, and there's some romance there. We're not just saying he can go have sex with whatever lady he wants. That's another comic thing too. Like those guys have a romantic tension. Like Gambit gets around romantic tension wise, but
Gambit just gets around. Period.
Yeah, that's Gambit.
He's basically a cat in heat.
Yeah,
you're gonna hear him coming.
He's like a sex addict. It's like a creepy like that movie Nymphomaniac kind of thing. Like it is just a joyless act for him. That like,
oh man, imagine if they got David Duchovny to play Gambit in a movie.
That's kind of like 15 years ago. That's kind of good casting.
It actually kind of would, especially like just his entire character from that Californication shit would be really good.
Yeah.
Just throw him in a Cajun accent, and he's good to go. Anyway, Gambit's sexual proclivities aside, Rogue takes off, and she can't shake Gambit because he keeps jumping in her car as she's driving away. So eventually she flies off, and I love this part because there's a weird timing thing that happens here where she flies off, and then we're cut to a plane flying, and this dude in midair in the plane looks outside and like has a shocked reaction, and then we see Rogue sitting on the plane
on the wing,
on the wing, which makes me think that like flying around actually makes her tired. And I'm kind of fascinated with the way that powers like work in not real life, but like so. Like, can she only fly for a couple 100 miles? Like, what's her limit? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, like that would totally make sense. Like because like at least with Angel, like you're sure that makes him tired because he's actually like pumping his arms, pumping his wing arms. But Rogue just like flexes or something. Like it's not telekinesis. Does she just kind of like want to fly and then it happens?
And there's actually a moment later in the episode where she runs into Angel and he says, "How do you fly without wings?" And she's like, "I don't know." She doesn't even care. She's just like, "I'm out."
Yeah.
The other reason I like this part is because in the comic books, there's a moment where she does this and she flies. I think she flies next to the plane, and she flies next to Air Force One, and Ronald Reagan looks out and has this shocked reaction, which is just really good.
So she eventually finds Muir Island by looking at a picture in like a travel guide, like a picture book, and heads on down to Muir Island, where we get this like super sad Muir Island bar, where Pyro and Avalanche are getting drunk and playing darts, and we're introduced to these guys, which are kind of weird, minor but perpetual X-Men villains. Like these guys never really go away, but they never get a shot at the big time. Here, and they're assholes. They're real bad. Where they're just like, she comes in, she's like, "Hey, are you Adler?" And he goes, "No, love, I'm Pyro," and just like sets fire to the bar. It's like nobody has respect, not just for other people's property, but for the property they're currently in this show. It's like this will affect you. Like you don't want to burn down the place you're in. At the very least, your clothes are going to smell like smoke.
And number two, this is probably the only place to drink in Muir Island.
Oh, totally.
Like, you are screwing yourself over. Like, everywhere else is just churches. You can't sell liquor in your churches.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you doing?
And I know you control fire, but also, like, it's going to get out of control pretty quick. There's a lot of booze in this bar, brother. Like, just, like, don't just do... I mean, I get that it's a comic book TV show, so everyone has to demonstrate their powers right away, or else kids won't understand them. But boy, does that scene... is it ridiculous.
I love how Avalanche shows off his powers here, which is after Rogue dusts off Pyro, he walks up and just melts her chair, which I don't understand at all. Like, his name is Avalanche. I expected him to like raise up the ground in like one of those weird ground wave things that they're always doing in the comic books. But nope, I'm just gonna dissolve your stool.
That's what he really does. Is he creates vibrations, but here, not so much. So both these guys get kind of tossed out. Rogue isn't having it. She's looking for the cure. She goes up to Adler's lab, and he goes, "Visit us off a boatin'," which they only recorded once, and just kind of play the soundboard for it. And she just rips his door off and is like, "I did not fly here to get told no." Which again, property. Like, all this shit has to be repaired, dog. Like, stop it.
And it's kind of funny too because the door is there. I think through the rest of the episode, right?
They
like I don't think anybody fixes it. Yeah,
you just cut to Mystique with a mouthful of nails, like in a hammer, just kind of like repairing this.
Boy, I wish I was telekinetic right now.
Yeah, if only somebody who was strong with their hands were here. Like, just and this door, it is like a foot thick metal portal too. Like, there's no reason that they should be able to open this or repair it.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. So Rogue is, and I'm kind of, even though I just watched this, I'm kind of forgetting how this worked out. She leaves, right? Like she. What's the time in here? Because she comes here and she says, I want the cure, and then she leaves, and that's when Apocalypse is revealed. He's hiding behind the door. That's what it is. He's literally hiding behind the door.
It is really cute. And this is our first time we see Apocalypse. It's because Mystique needs to check in with Apocalypse before she can say yes. She can't just say, "Yes, we'll give you the cure," because Apocalypse is calling the shots. Apocalypse's design, as I already mentioned, has weird, like, it's like his lips have piping. Like the old X-Men first movie piping that the characters have on their costume. That's what his lips are. is 80s piping, and then he has a big A on his belt. And that's my favorite detail. Just in case you forgot that he was an ancient Egyptian god king.
With an affinity for the color like blue and purple.
Yeah, his sound scheme. Like,
I will say that his voice actor is actually
he's great.
Pretty good. I've really enjoyed this dude chewing scenery throughout these 2 episodes. It's fantastic.
This defined we talk about this a lot on the show, but this defined Apocalypse for me completely. Like reading the comics, this is Apocalypse's voice. And it makes him kind of scary because he is a goofy, they give him this goofy power set where he can, turn his hands into hammers and change sizes and stuff. For somebody who's supposed to be scary, they gave him a really, really goofy power set. But his voice, carries it a lot. Set? Whatever.
I don't think I've never really understood what, Apocalypse's supposedly mutant power is supposed to be. Just don't get it.
He's immortal, and then he controls his size and density. So he can be, crazy strong and crazy huge. And then he has energy blasts, and I think that's which doesn't sound like very much, but it ends up being he's super powerful. He just does those things really well, I guess.
Fair,
yeah. So as they, they say yes, we'll make her a slave. Apocalypse says, let's do it, and Rogue's leaving. She starts thinking about her past, and we get this flashback here.
And this is pretty much the stereotypical Rogue flashback. She's flirting with the dude, and the dude goes to kiss her, the dude gets knocked out. That's pretty much the history. Every time Rogue ever thinks about something that happened in her past, it's kissing a dude.
Yes.
Or not being able to kiss a dude, or... No, that's pretty much it. There was only 2 types of people.
That's Rogue.
Dudes that Rogue have kissed,
yep.
Dudes that Rogue want to kiss.
Yep, exactly. You get shunted into one of those 2 categories. And as we end up, Pyro is looking around for Avalanche down on the rocky shores where his broken and battered body is probably already washed up in a foamy blood thing. And Cable's down there because he doesn't land on the island properly. And it's well, fuck, you guys are fucked. These guys have a bad time in this episode.
These dudes do not go. This is terrible because they don't know who their boss is. We didn't really get into this, but he knows it's Mystique. He doesn't know where Mystique is. Nobody's showed up to pay their bar tab. These guys are just having a bad day,
and they keep fighting above their weight class. They haven't been matched with anybody appropriate in this. It's you guys can't take Cable. You guys can't take Rogue. What are you guys doing?
I do love Cable right here because he cannot go more than 2 seconds without saying a one-liner, and then his version of a wink, which is that weird glowy thing that pops up.
This is eye glowing for a second. It's a reverse wink.
I really want to slow that down and have a gif of what's her name, the mom Bluth from Arrested Development. She does that real creepy wink.
Just going back and forth them winking at each other.
Exactly. And this whole dialogue thing. This is just Pyro is hey, I'm gonna kill you, and for no reason at all. And Cable's nope, you're not.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So Rogue is going to get this cure, right? And they think it is shit. But at this point, because of Cable spilling the beans, Pyro and Avalanche know, hey, there's a guy who can cure mutants. His name is Dr. Adler. Let's kidnap him and ransom him, because they're just kind of lowlifes. So as Rogue is about to kind of take the plunge, they bust into the bar and start wrecking the place and kidnap Dr. Adler, only to find out that it's their boss.
Surprise.
And Cable doing his corner creep, because this whole episode is just Cable hanging out behind things and in corners and stuff. Has been watching Rogue, and he gets zapped by something. Rogue gets zapped. Sorry. I misremember.
Rogue is has come back to Dr. Adler and is about to get zapped when they bust in and kidnap Mystique, aka Adler, and then Cable, who's just been sitting there, I guess, just watching his mutant friend about to get zapped. I mean, maybe not friend, but fellow mutant, right?
Well, and he obviously cares about it. He's trying to get Adler. He's trying to kill the collars and stuff.
And she's obviously a mutant. She's wearing a costume. She has a uniform. It's a pretty easy identification process. So yeah. And they run away. Cable chases them, and then there's a whole fight thing. But I love the scene when Pyro and Avalanche, they get Adler over to again the Rocky Beach or wherever. undo take the potato sack off of him. She turns back into her normal self and is like, I've been working for Apocalypse. And they literally say, who the fuck is Apocalypse? Like, who is this guy?
We don't know
I don't know who this is.
Poor guys. Is this where he says, like, frightening? Like, personally, I find this frighteningly confusing.
Yeah, he's just completely clueless. He's like, I have no idea what's going on with this.
It is never a good sign when characters are criticizing the plot.
No, it's not. So yeah, Rogue shows up at this point and starts, because Rogue still thinks that they kidnapped Adler and that Adler is actually Adler. So she starts attacking Pyro and Avalanche, and there's a little fight scene here. There's a funny scene where she throws a rock at Avalanche and he dissolves it, and all of the pieces of the rocks hit them. I'm like, these dudes are just, like you said, outclassed, not prepared for this at all.
Yeah, she wipes the floor with them. And Cyclops and Jean show up. Because they were worrying about Rogue earlier and kind of put two and two together. Luckily, they just knew exactly where on the island she was, and zip across the Atlantic in zero time. And,
yeah, this is like 45 minutes later, as far as I can tell. Like, the timing here is really weird. I'm not going to get too much into those details, but I mean, like, how fast is that plane ride?
Yeah. So this is a weird kind of misunderstanding because nobody knows they're actually dealing with Apocalypse or Mystique except for Cable. He's the only one who knows, what to do. So Rogue is protecting them. The X-Men and Cable fight, Rogue fights, but really, like, Cable is doing the right thing. We just don't know it. Trying to stop this. And eventually they all just kind of disperse, right? Like, Rogue stays there. They say that Rogue's going to have to decide for herself. And we kind of cut to, like, forward. Like, the end of this episode is a clusterfuck. Like, this does not have, like, a proper climax or, like, a really coherent ending because I think that they knew they were going to send it into the next episode. And then, so as this is happening, as they're kind of picking up the pieces, Angel shows up and says, like, hey, I'm actually Warren Worthington. I've been funding your research. I want the cure. And Apocalypse is like, any port in a storm, because, like, he's supposed to be this master geneticist, but he will literally take all comers. Yeah. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Business.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He's literally open for business. Like, as we'll see in the next episode, he's just got a line of mutants out the door, ready to do this.
Just a bunch of no names, except for a couple Morlocks, which we'll see, and one really bad haircut. So yeah, he's going to do this stuff, and he's going to take over the world. Yep.
And there's some really good scenery too, and that brings us into the next episode,
which is XM110, Come the Apocalypse. Original air date February 27th, 1993. The immortal mutant Apocalypse turns mutants who journeyed to Muir Island seeking the fictitious cure into the Horsemen, famine, pestilence, war, and death. The Horsemen start destroying everything across the planet, and the X-Men must battle the Horsemen to prevent further suffering. And that's this episode, where this is like an entire, like, story arc of one character kind of broken down into like 20 minutes, of which maybe 15 are used on that actual plot we just talked about.
I love the way that this opens up too, because now that Cyclops and Jean have showed up, obviously Professor Xavier and Morgan McTaggart were already there along with Rogue. So now everybody's hanging out in this bar that Pyro and Avalanche were just hanging out at. Except now a whole lot more mutants have shown up, and, like, obvious mutants. Like we talked before with the Morlocks, that they weren't that bad. These dudes are kind of bad. Like, if anybody need to be living under a subway, it's this crew. Jesus.
And some of them, there's a couple of them, I'm looking at the picture here you have in the show notes, that are wearing costumes but are not associated with any teams that I know.
I love the dude in the middle too, right above Warren's head. It reminds me of the character Tombstone from the Spider-Man series.
This great gray-faced.
But like it's that same hairdo, like that flat top. It's so bad.
Yeah, and I love this picture of War too, where he looks just like a sad, like he looks like a Mormon kid, like who's excited to go on mission.
He's just there to have fun and make friends.
And have
this isn't a reality show.
Like the worst haircut.
For the longest time too, I thought that the dude on the right, who we actually see talk in this episode, I think we opened with the dude saying, like, where's the cure? I've been waiting here for days. I thought that was an actual Morlock. I thought, because he or she is kind of dressed similar to one of them that was in the Morlock episode.
I think that
apparently
is.
Not.
It's not a Morlock? I thought it was a Morlock.
Oh, it might be. Yeah. It kind of looks like it, but I can't really tell.
Yeah, I think that is one of the Morlocks. Even though the one that's dressed like is Table Boy, and it's not Table Boy. So, Table Boy does not need to get cured.
Just one episode without mentioning Table Boy here.
No,
that's all I'm asking.
Table Boy will never die. So anyway, Warren gets the treatment, and like this is like genuinely kind of a foreboding scene, you know, because we know what's going on, but Warren doesn't. There's this dramatic irony, and he's like, "This may be uncomfortable," you know, and it looks just really painful.
And Mystique pulls the dick move of actually like shape-shifting back into Mystique right before she pulls the trigger on this thing. So right before this like horrible mutation machine hits him, laser beam hits him, like he's like, oh fuck, what did I do wrong? I should have vetted this guy.
Yeah, it's super scary. Something's very similar to this happens in Deadpool, in the Deadpool movie. It's like the same kind of thing though, where like somebody thinks they're signing up for one thing and they're signing up for another, and they have this moment of oh fuck, kind of thing. And
so you're saying this is the boring middle chapter of this episode, like it wasn't Deadpool?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, this episode never ends up like it has a couple goofy things, but it never ends up fulfilling the heights that I wanted to. Yeah, it's really painful, but it just makes me think that like all Angel, you know, so Warren Worthington has 2 mutations. He has wings and he has hollow bones. Those are the 2 things he has, and like it really feels like you could surgically remove these wings. Like, out of all the mutants to get a cure for mutation, this would be the one. Because the storyline this is based on in the comics, like, he has no interest in curing his mutation. His wings get, like, roughed up, and he does this to kind of get them back. Like, he wants his wings. Out of all the mutants in the world to, like, want to get rid of their mutant power, like, Warren Worthington makes the least sense here.
Yeah, and he even, in that first episode, like, he actually said, like, to his girl, like, oh, you don't want to be with me. Like, I can't, nobody can love me. And I'm like, dude, again, rich, male model, lives in a chalet.
Yeah.
Okay, you have wings, I'm sorry. I guess I can deal with weird wing sex every once in a while. My bad.
You can find a lady who's into your wing sex, dude. Like,
absolutely.
100%.
DeviantArt.
Yeah.
Just go to DeviantArt.
Yeah. You can give the hollow bone to a lady, I guarantee it. Like...
Oh man, giving the hollow bone. Ooh, that's bad.
So Apocalypse is just like, hey, you know, you are going to take over. You're going to be my horseman. He's doing this his villain speech because he never stops villain speeching. That's his secret. He's like Hulk. Like, he's always villain speeching.
That's his secret. And I actually like the design of Archangel, like this weird purple, like, metal blade thing. I know that's very 90s, and I know it's like it really appeals to 13-year-old Jay, but like that's my jam. Like, I really like that whole design. I think it's way better than like red suit, white piping wings, normal wings Angel. So.
I actually kind of like the simplicity of the red suit Angel with just a little halo as the symbol. Like, I'm kind of a sucker for superheroes that have like a symbol on their chest. Like that. That's not like their name. I kind of like that, but I like Archangel too. And he's an amazing. When I think I've mentioned this on the show, but if I haven't, I used to own a complete at the time set of the Marvel Legends action figures, several hundred of them. Like, I collected those for a very long time, and
seriously,
and sold them all for as much money as I paid. Which never happens, but I just happened to be able to sell them in a lot to a guy in South America for $4,000.
Whoa!
When I got divorced, so that paid for me to move out and stuff. And it was kind of cool. But the action figure for Archangel is amazing. Like he looks really cool. Those metal wings look really cool. It must have been a pain in the ass to draw because it's all these individual metal feathers. But he looks really like it's a super cool action figure, and he is a really pretty bad, really 90s, but pretty badass design. So I mostly agree with you, even though I kind of like the red costume too. And he's kind of done a thing where he's done split the difference, where he's had the metal wings and the red costume before, and that's kind of both of our sons combined.
Don't bring up the sun meme. I can't handle any sun memes.
I hate to destroy you, but we recorded the Warcraft 3 episode, and it shows up in that one too, because it was only 2 days after the Portal episode. I still got that meme on the brain. So I didn't bring up the meme. I was just referring to Archangel as our son. That is, it's not the meme. That's a new meme.
Canon.
So we flash over to from the last episode to the bar, and there's a bunch of mutants here waiting to get cured, and the X-Men just chilling out, as we mentioned, having drinks, because like, what else are they gonna do? Just wait for more stuff to happen.
It's Muir Island. They shut down the movie theater for being too demonic.
Yeah.
This is not a good place to hang out. There's nothing fun here to do in this town.
Muir Island is ridiculous. And Warren Worthington shows up and is just like, hey, they cured me. And here's the thing, is he says he's cured. He's still just wearing his jacket. Like, we have no idea that there's no wings under there. Like, anybody could say this.
Also, the first episode made this seem like a secret, right? Like, it was like, I remember Mystique asking Apocalypse, like, how did you know he was a mutant? And he was like, I know all things. So I guess these people just all knew Warren Worthington was a mutant too.
Yeah, it seemed like a secret. Like, it seemed like he's one of the few, like, X-Men who actually lives, like, a double life, or X-Men related characters. And so he's like, it works, I'm here to tell you it works. And everyone goes apeshit. Like,
yeah, everybody's really excited and just like, oh man, me next.
Yep. So everyone wants it. We get a little spotlight on some of these individual mutants that are going to be kind of important, including one sad, skinny lady who makes a flower wilt when she touches it on accident. It's foreshadowing.
Which, hey Gary, if you have a whole bar and your mutant power is to make flowers wilt, why the fuck are you sitting at the table with flowers? Like, go sit at the bar where there's no flowers around, you giant asshole.
Well, there's peanuts there. She would have made wilt. So she would have touched the bowl and turned into a creamy bowl of peanut butter just by like touching it.
Her and Famine need to change places, is what I'm saying.
Her and Famine have a lot of problems, which we will get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like this scene because Cyclops rolls up on Warren and says, being a mutant, it should be a... I don't remember what he says, but he's all proud of it. And Warren says, look me in the eye when you say that. And I'm like, man, the dude's name is Cyclops. Don't set him up for these.
He's in costume, too. Like, it's not like you should know, buddy.
He might as well have a third eye on his chest at this point.
I can get down with that.
I know.
Yeah. Some of the chronology here kind of throws me off. Like, the mutants, is this where they start showing up for this thing?
So they flash back. During this scene, it kind of zooms out, and we realize that Apocalypse and... Well, at this point, it zooms out, and Apocalypse starts talking about how Mystique does a really good job of impersonating Warren. So that's how we realize, that's who the Warren at the bar is.
You're right.
And then Archangel walks up, and we see, like, the full metal wings and everything. And Archangel says, I'm not Warren anymore, and then does this thing that a movie that I recently watched, and I know you did too, The Thing does, where he just blows up some like kind of important equipment for no reason.
Everyone destroying... Well, this is right before they all bust a hole in his roof.
True.
To leave. Like, this is no respect for property. I know that's a superhero thing, but like honestly, you have to hang out there. Like, it seems more egregious in this cartoon than anywhere else.
Yeah, at this point, you still have to convince mutants to get in this machine, and if they walk in and see like half of that shit
raining,
blown up,
because it's never not raining on your island. Like, I imagine some of this equipment's sensitive.
So at that point, that's when this is when the montage starts.
Yes.
So we get this big long like voice over thing with Apocalypse, and I'll probably cut some of that in here because it's really great.
Each generation has cried out for a new world. Bat has built the same old one, corrupt and weak. But the new world shall come to pass. I will purge the earth of these benighted humans. Take the food from their mouths.
No! Oh, please. Oh, food. Oh, food. I need please. Food. Oh, please help.
Turn their weapons against them. War shall be their destruction. Exterminate them.
And this is when we can see these three mutants from the bar converted into his horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yes.
And so we've got Death, who he's named. Angel is the only one important enough Archangel is the only one important enough to have two names, apparently.
Yeah.
The other ones are just War, Famine, and Pestilence, who, like we said earlier, are these mutants that we briefly had a spotlight on in the bar.
Well, he was, he's the only one who had a name before. So that's why he gets two names.
Yeah. But also, I guess part of this mutant conversion therapy is everybody but Archangel gets a horse. I know they're named horsemen. Like, I get that, but
it's not just horses. They're like the metal flying horses from He-Man. Like, these,
they're so weird.
They're specific horses. It's really, really strange. It doesn't look like it's from X-Men at all.
No, it doesn't. It looks like some weird Dragon Riders of Pern fan fiction bullshit or something. I don't even know what this is.
It is unreasonable. So I just remember now that, like, for some reason going through the X-Men, that's definitely one of the Morlocks, because she gets she in the Morlock episode, the one that is Pestilence, gives one of the X-Men plague. Remember?
Gambit got the plague.
That's that Morlock. So this is definitely one of the Morlocks. But we get the other three horsemen. Archangel is Death, as we know, who can fly and shoot his feathers at things. They blow up in the cartoon. In the comics, they're coated in deadly neurotoxin. The War, who is the one with the bowl haircut, here he just kind of can do whatever. Like, at one point he telekinetically controls missiles, and at another point he causes explosions. In the comics, he has a reason for it. He's like a war vet who is paralyzed from the waist down, and Apocalypse fixes him, and when he claps, it causes explosions. And that's his power in the comics. Pestilence, who we mentioned, who's a Morlock who can make people sick, give them the plague, and Famine, who can kind of, like, destroy food and drain, like, make people super hungry, like starve people with her energy, which is a really crazy, kind of scary idea if you think about it. Like, just suck the nutrients from your blood.
If you're wondering where all this stuff sounds familiar, it's because you out there, just like me, continually watch Supernatural, and you've seen all of these people on the Supernatural TV show.
Is that true?
Which is horrible, and you shouldn't watch it. Oh yeah, definitely.
There's a Four Horsemen arc on the show where they use the same things.
Where it's almost exactly the same thing, and like to defeat them, they have to like go collect their rings. Like it's ridiculous.
What? They go collect their rings.
I'm telling you, man, they have to collect the 4 rings of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It is ridiculous.
Oh, that's dumb.
Send me your Supernatural questions. I'll answer anything.
Oh, that is unreasonable. I don't care for that.
So then they flash to back to, I guess, Rogue, Jean Grey. This is kind of confusing to me, because I thought for a minute that this was at the bar, but we haven't seen. I didn't realize Gambit could come to Muir Island with them, but Jean is there hanging out. But it kind of also looks like it could be in the mansion. Like, I'm very confused where where they're playing pool at. I guess it's got to be at the bar, right?
Well, it's so you think that, but then Storm's joke makes me think it's at the mansion. So I don't know, but keep in mind that they can zip between these things in about 45 minutes. Yeah, so it could be like Jean could have just
the continents have not separated yet. This is Eurasia.
Yeah, it is. It's Pangea.
Pangea. That's what it is.
So Jean Grey could have read like a chapter of a book and flown back here, but they just have to. So while the Horsemen are off doing their thing, they had to establish Gambit being kind of grosser to, I guess, give Rogue motivation further. But yeah,
I guess, like, so is her motivation that, oh wow, there's always these creepy dudes that want to mac on me, so I should be able to give them what they want? Like, I don't understand this at all.
I don't know. It is, because she definitely wants to kiss people. Again, like, it's gross. I don't think she necessarily wants to kiss Gambit, because Gambit's a real fucking creeper, in the cartoon version. But, like, she is not anti-kissing. Like, it is not, Rogue loves kissing, as we have previously established. Like, that's Rogue. She just can't, and that's why she's complicated. Yeah.
And to give you an idea on how creepy Gambit is, there's a really unfortunate line delivery that I want you and your Gambit voice to read for me, because I can't do a good Gambit voice.
Yeah, he says, she's like, God damn it, I will drain your energy, you fucking moron. And he goes, you can drain my energy anytime, Cher. Gambit has plenty. Like, the way he says plenty is so gross.
It's so gross.
He's definitely talking about his balls being full of sperm. It's so fucking
definitely
gross.
Talking about sperm.
Yeah.
Yep. He has to be talking about sperm.
Yeah, because again, he has like a third grader's understanding of sex. Like, he just like a man kisses a woman until he puts energy into her, and then 6 weeks later, a baby comes out of her mouth. That's what Gambit thinks the human reproductive system is. Like,
I'm gonna put my sperm energy into your mouth with my tongue.
Yeah,
and then
he just has no understanding. For somebody who, like, it's just like in Wet Hot American Summer. For somebody who acts like they have sex this much, they clearly have not had sex. Like, he does not understand a damn thing. So he's doing this, and he's just like being a shithead. And Rogue's friends are not like being solid bros at all about this. Like, they could just like, hey buddy, take it goddamn outside, like, put it in your pants. But instead, they're all just kind of whispering to Rogue, like, don't let him get to you. And Gambit is going to take this pool shot. The way he does it is he charges the tip of his cue, which, as far as I know, just makes things explode. So I have no idea what his plan was.
He's going to blow up the cue ball, right?
Yeah, I guess. But then Jean Grey makes him scratch the table. here instead, which, like, he was going to blow up the fucking table. But she makes him, just kind of scratch it a little bit. And then Storm gets a one-liner, because everyone's making jokes in this episode. Where Storm's like, just because it is a rec room does not mean you need to wreck it. And it's like, okay, it's like the Splinter at the end of a Turtles movie.
Good job, Storm. Good job.
Yep.
And even Gambit's like, wow, even Storm has jokes. Way to go.
Yep.
I'm like, what? Where are you people?
What is this?
So Storm is watching TV, and of course she's watching the news because she's super boring. And it's in Paris. There's the nuclear disarmament talks.
It's the World Peace Talks.
Very topical.
It's the World Peace Talks, because after it shows that Apocalypse is kind of taking this over, Rogue gets to make her joke because everyone's making jokes. She says more like the World War Talks. And like, guys, people are dying. Why are you cool with this shit?
What are you like? You're supposed to be a superhero. You know that, right? You're not a terrorist.
Yeah.
Did you not get the memo?
Yeah. Why are you making Joker one-liners? So it cuts to this montage of the Horsemen doing shit here, which is pretty great. I really like the famine one, where it is like these two French people are going this could be a little bit later too. I might get the chronology, but these two French people are on a wagon, and famine zaps them, and then they just, like, the longest animation ever, like, turn into starving zombie Frenchmen, and this shot goes on forever until eventually the camera is in their mouth. Like, it just goes way
really
longer
bad.
than you think. And
it's
then,
super bad.
And I feel really bad because those actors, like the actors, just like, you're starving to death. And they're probably like, oh, cool, do I have to, like, what do I have to do, like 3 seconds, 4 seconds? They're like, no, like 45 seconds. Like, give me 45 seconds of ADR of, like, starving to death. So these two guys are just like, I'm so hungry, food, food, ouch, ooh. Like, and they just do that forever. Like, it goes on for way too long.
I don't know why I've got Arrested Development on the brain, but what's his name? Tobias doing the it's a fire sale routine in this during the voice acting call would just be fucking hilarious too. No, you're starving to death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right before we see the little Horseman montage, we do get a great clip of Apocalypse, because, like, this dude is giving a speech saying how we need to, world peace is good, but mutants are out there, which are bad. Like, it's a real basic boilerplate thing. And then the camera goes up and looks at 3 gargoyles out of a Batman cartoon, and all of a sudden, one starts talking in, like, the Apocalypse voice, and then he just turns into Apocalypse. Like, I'm like, how long were you there?
Yeah, he's had this plan for years.
Apocalypse has the dumbest powers.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, there's a bunch of fighting going back and forth. We see, I think War goes to a military base and uses missiles to blow up some planes. I'm trying to remember what Archangel does. He goes to the dam. Archangel goes to the dam and doesn't blow up the dam, but blows up the power generator, which cracks the dam, I guess?
Yes.
Sure,
yes.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
And then, that's all fine. And Pestilence is running around doing Pestilence things. The X-Men show up, and then there's a fight, I think.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember exactly how this breaks down.
They fight at the Paris World Peace Accord kind of thing. And the... it's essentially just kind of like they don't... Because maybe they fight twice, though, because this might be the one where, like, Pestilence is heading for them, and they say, like, oh, she must not touch us. And then Storm summons fog to stop her.
Yes.
Like, the idea is maybe she'll get lost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just super weird. I know it. So they were watching TV. Xavier dispatches the team to go to Paris, and then says, "Rogue, you go back to Muir Island." Which, again, I thought Rogue was already at Muir Island. I don't understand the geography.
Well, the mansion is on Muir Island. They're just now revealing it. It's in Rochester, Muir Island. So
Rochester, Muir Island.
Yeah.
The Xavier School for the Gifted and Wayward Boys is what's happening right there.
Yep.
So yeah, X-Men show up, they fight, Rogue goes back and confronts Dr. Adler, basically ties Dr. Adler to the mutation machine and threatens to zap him with it, which, hey, Rogue, again, you're a superhero, that's not cool.
Yep. We don't know if she was actually going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was a thing, but... Adler turns into Mystique, and Mystique says, oh, there's a secret base that Apocalypse has, and it's underneath Stonehenge, and then says, in England. That Stonehenge. Okay,
I love that,
gotcha.
that Apocalypse has a secret command center under Stonehenge. That's so good.
Yeah, probably the most investigated place on Earth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my base underneath it.
There's just so many tourists there, like, all the time. Like, the Apocalypse, like, instead of, like, rising from the Earth every 100 years, he rises from the Earth every time there doesn't happen to be a tourist there, which just works out to about every 100 years.
Every 100 years, yeah. I'm gonna put my secret base underneath the Apple Store in San Francisco.
Mystique escapes by shooting Rogue. The X-Men show up, and this is where that thing is, where Storm stops Pestilence with fog, and it's just kind of a long fight here. But
none of this really makes any sense to me. Like, they're just, like, kind of throwing stuff at each other, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, it's not very much of a fight. Like, it's hard to tell what's going on, where anything is in space. The Horsemen are very clearly outmatched. Like, Archangel is legit, but everyone else is rank amateurs, because Apocalypse's plan of just giving anybody who walks in powers and entrusting them to enact all of his plans are pretty misguided.
Yeah, and at some point had to tell them plans, or just say, like, go blow up some shit. I don't know. You're Pestilence. Go Pestilence something.
Eventually they fight him off. The Horsemen take off. And Rogue shows up with Apocalypse at Stonehenge and is going to fight, and then the X-Men show up to back him up. And they get into a fight. Archangel is here. Before this, he shows up and says, "Hey, we were defeated. We're unworthy." And that's the only real line that, like, gives you Apocalypse's entire thing, which is that it's a survival of the fittest. Like, that's his whole thing. But they haven't really talked about it until this.
And they don't really talk about it here because, like, if you didn't know the history, you could totally just miss that entirely.
100%.
Just not understand what's going on.
So Rogue steals Archangel's powers, which causes him to become Warren again for a little bit. And he takes out the rest of the Horsemen, so Apocalypse gathers them up. The way he leaves is, and you don't have this in the notes, and it's really worth mentioning, is Wolverine dives at him, he steps onto a platform, sinks into the ground fast enough, like just takes an elevator down so Wolverine misses him. Wolverine lands on the ground in a different spot and just starts stabbing it.
Yes.
Like, he's just trying. What are you doing? What are you doing, you idiot? Like, these 2 episodes, in fact, these 3 episodes are not very good for Wolverine. Like, this episode is like the anti-Wolverine episode. Like,
between pouty, angry Wolverine in the previous episode and now this guy, he's basically, I don't think he does anything. This is his only scene in this episode.
Yeah, he just gets to stab the ground, and then Pryde of the X-Men Wolverine, which, like, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So apparently at some point Warren explains that, Rogue says, I took the evil from you, which my understanding of Rogue's powers wasn't that you could steal traits, like you steal mutant powers.
Yeah.
That's your whole jam. Like, maybe some memories.
You shake hands with Rogue in order to quit smoking, or to be less lazy. Like, it doesn't, like, she's not a life coach.
And if you can take the evil out of somewhere, again, you're grossly misusing your powers. There's way better things that you could be doing as a superhero. Like, I don't know, you're in the early 90s, like, go take the evil from Saddam Hussein. Maybe avoid all that.
Yep.
Or Ronald Reagan. I don't care which one. One of the Bushes.
If you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it, right? Like, at this point, we're kind of done with these 2 episodes and this plot line for a little while, if I remember right. Like, I don't remember if Apocalypse comes back until the next season, or does he come back at the end of this season? I
think he's a villain in the next season, but I could be wrong. I might have that might be a mistake. He might show up at the end of this one, because I think the end of this season is about Sentinels.
Okay.
Again, but we'll have to revisit. But before we move on
tune in next time.
Yeah, tune in next time. Before we move on to our next thing, we have our character spotlight.
These are the tales of the
And this time we're going to be talking about Angel, a.k.a. Warren Worthington. And this is kind of a hard one for me because I don't particularly like Angel that much. And I guess we can spend like 5 or 10 minutes just making fun of him. But I caught up with some recent X-Men stuff. And I guess, like, spoilers if you haven't been reading X-Men for the last 2 years, but also who cares, because it's the X-Men. Like, they brought back the 60s X-Men into the current timeline, so now there's 2 Cyclops, there's, I think, 1.5 Jean Greys or something, like, there's 2 Icemans? Isis Man? I don't know what the pluralization there is. And, like,
Isis Man is an entirely different supervillain.
Different, yeah. That's a bad Mega Man game, is what that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, and Warren's very boring in all of this stuff. Like, as much like you would think having two of them there, and one is kind of a shell-shocked literal angel or something. I find it hard to care.
He's hard to care about. The reason why we're doing him this episode rather than Rogue, is because Rogue will have a highlight episode later. This is just this is Warren Worthington's thing. You know, like this is as close as he can get to being spotlightable for our purposes. Yeah, I never really got into Angel either. As I mentioned before, they try to make him more interesting power-wise a little bit later, and they do this by giving him, like, healing blood. They, like, lean into this Angel stuff in this Chuck Austin run. And I think that power still remains canon, so, like, if you drink Angel's blood, it will heal you, which is fucking weird. But mostly
healing blood is just like the worst plot device.
Yeah, healing blood. It's like Hawkman, you know, where it's just like you have this whole team full of people who can do cool shit, and many of whom can fly, and then you have one person who can just fly. Does he fly better than anyone else? No. Does he do anything else? Not really. Like he's just not. And personality wise, he fits in a weird spot. Right? Because, like, Cyclops makes a lot of... the original 5, Cyclops makes tons of sense. Jean Grey makes tons of sense. Iceman is the, like, the goofy little kid, like, younger brother. And Beast is, like, the nerdy older brother. And, like, Warren is supposed to be, like, the preppy guy. But they never really kept with that because it's not an archetype that, like, gets used very often. And they didn't want to make him an antagonist. Like, nobody likes the rich preppy guy. You know, it's hard to have a hero that is the rich preppy guy. So he kind of became this, he's kind of just friends with everybody, he's kind of just a good guy, he's a little bit more hot-tempered than Cyclops, but he doesn't really hold a strong place on the team, personality-wise or power-wise, at least in the original 5.
And he's, to me, again, he's just kind of a boring character. He has a boring power. Like, nobody's going to sit around and go, man, I wish I had wings.
Oh, I bet you people do all the time, but, like, people want to fly, that's, like, their thing. You know, but I mean, like, if you're looking at mutant powers, like, maybe I just want to fly. Like, I can fly without wings. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's a way easier direction to point B besides wings.
His back must be totally fucked up from sleeping on his stomach all the time.
Oh my god, right?
That man has never slept on his back. Like, unless he sleeps like a bird, like he sleeps like crouched on a pole. You know, like you could do a version of him that would be great if he was like really, you know, leaned into this bird stuff and was real fucking weird.
He was nesting at some point.
Like one day he
was
wakes
just
up
going around picking
egg.
beast fur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and just the little thing comes out. He's like, "What do I feed you?" You know, like, and does he walk it on him regurgitating like into his son?
I want to see him talking to his son, like, "You don't want to love me? I have wings." And the son is just sitting there going,
"Kill me." But yeah, it was always hard to get into him growing up too. Like, it was not my favorite character either.
These are the tales of the
Yeah, so this is Pryde of the X-Men. X-Men, Pryde of the X-Men as it's formerly known, which is an animated television pilot originally broadcast in 1989 on the Marvel Action Universe television block featuring Marvel Comics mutant superheroes, the X-Men. The plot aired infrequently in syndication and was later released on video and served as the basis for Konami's X-Men arcade game. So funding for this pilot actually came from the budget for RoboCop, which is real weird, and the RoboCop the animated series. So instead of making a 13th episode of RoboCop, Marvel Productions decided to use that funding to have Toei Animation produce the animation for this pilot, which, like, spoiler, the animation's probably the best part of this.
Yep.
Like, for the most part, it looks pretty good, even though it is stupid.
I really like the idea of Marvel Productions using this funding because I just really want someone to say, actually, it's about ethics and animation.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like the RoboCop animated series slush fund. I saw, like, you know how it is boring to relay tweets that you've seen, but there was a funny tweet I saw recently where it was like, it was, you know, set up as a dialogue, and it was like, "You're a bad girl, aren't you?" And then the response was, "This is hot and everything, but can we just fast forward to the part where we're torrenting the RoboCop animated series?" I think it's a very funny relationship tweet.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is incredible. I didn't watch the version that has Spider-Man says vote in the beginning.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I think that's just a rip of the VHS, but you can find just kind of clean copies of it here. Has a really good theme song that you should do some cutting in of.
I definitely will be cutting in the theme song because it has lyrics. That's the best part about it. Like it's got a full like set of lyrics, and it's just great.
No place to hide, no place to run, no place to run. The mutant age has now begun. X-Men, this is a day, X-Men, coming your way. Magneto's hordes are on the way to pillage, burn, and plunder. But there's one team that will not yield, the team that strikes like thunder. X-Men, this is a day, X-Men, coming your way.
Is really, really good. This introduction is amazing. Like, the acting in this is really good. Like, we get Stanley in the beginning, being Stanley, and it's like, whose side are you on, Stanley? Like, he's look around you. There may be mutants around you, and it's like, well, are you trying to make us not like mutants? Are you trying to make us like mutants? What is the idea? Is this about tolerance, or is this about, like, there could be a commie anywhere?
What is that? What is that exercise that if you replace a word that you're trying to use with an actual group of people and it sounds racist, then you probably shouldn't be using the word to begin with. And if you replace the word mutant with black or women, like look around you, some of these people could be women. Like that's bad, Stanley. Rewrite your shit.
He's doing terrible, and it starts off like kind of a medias race. Like they're hauling Magneto somewhere. They have him caught. These government guys are incredible. Like, this is some of my favorite voice acting in the special, where they're just kind of like, mutants, I hate them. Like, these are the conversations they're having. Like, just standing around. Oh, man, that guy.
The Colonel sounds exactly like Brock Sampson's boss in the Venture Brothers in the OSI. Yeah. He sounds exactly like that guy.
Hunter
like, to the point where I looked it up and was like, is it the same dude? Like, it can't be the same guy. This is 20 years later.
It is insane, and nobody is reacting with, like, things are going to shit, right? Like, Magneto starts escaping. The White Queen is using her psychic powers to make the floor melt, the ground melt, and nobody is freaking out. Like, as he's dying, the Colonel guy's like, mutant! He's a stinking mutant! Which we know. And they don't deserve to live on this planet. And it's like, he's gonna kill you. Like, leave. He's going to kill you. And then as they're reporting that they're sinking into the ground, there's a really nice touch where he's like, no, they're not. And then the radio that the Colonel is on gets sunk under the quicksand and goes like,
which is not real.
No.
So, like, props to the White Queen for, like, making some auditory hallucinations happen. And, like, that's some Grant Morrison White Queen shit. I love that.
Very, very, very detailed. So essentially that's just, that's Magneto escaping.
Yeah, and by the way, just White Queen's voice actor right here. Like, I don't know what they were going for. Like, it's so bad.
They had...
Go ahead.
Or I was just going to say, they have no idea what they're doing with any voice acting in this thing.
Not at all.
Like, there's a couple of them that are passable. But this is so bad. And then we cut to Kitty Pryde showing up at the mansion with this letter from Xavier that he narrates, and this again is really, really good, like really bad. Where the taxi, she's like, will you wait here for me? And the taxi guy's like, I'm getting out of here. Like, everybody has these weird pauses in the middle of their speech. The direction's really off, and then she's like, I'm scared too. Like, Kitty Pryde's voice actress is she's like way a little powerless kid.
Yeah, they obviously directed the voice actress to say, hey, you're a 13-year-old girl getting to school for the first time, but then they drew and animated her like an 18-year-old grown woman.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing.
And Xavier, one of my, like this, me and my friend Derek still quote this to this day, this Xavier doing this really clumsy exposition where he's like, it's come to my attention, you have a mutant power. I believe you call it phasing. And, like, does she? Like,
did she come up with that?
Yeah. Or is that just something that you have come up with?
There's a great moment, too, when she walks in and she sees what Xavier calls a psychic projection, which he's going to use to lead... Because I guess he can't be bothered to come to the fucking front door. But
she has wheels, dog. Like,
exactly. Like, the house is wheelchair friendly. Yeah. It's yours. But she says, like, there's things in this letter that I haven't told anybody, not even my parents. How did you know? And he's like, oh, it was totally Cerebro. And I'm like, are you sure you haven't been prying into this 13-year-old girl's mind, Xavier? You dirty little pervert.
I guarantee he has. He also does this little pretty twirl in his wheelchair then when he has to show off, he does this like a little spin as he psychically projects the X-Men's power set. Their sizzle reel into her brain.
Yeah, this is good stuff too, because and at this point where he brings her to the danger room because it's an X-Men show.
Yes,
and if the mansion's not exploded, we have to have a danger room. Otherwise, if the mansion is exploded, we have to have the building scene that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
But this is the team here. I think is really interesting, and what they're doing is just fascinating to me. So first up is Cyclops, because it can't be X-Men without Cyclops, and the danger room is set to, I guess, be in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a Mayan temple with plant monsters.
Yeah, it's really weird. So we have Cyclops, and then we go to Dazzler. Or no, with Cyclops and then Colossus. And the animation here with Colossus is
great.
fantastic.
Yeah, where he's running down the hallway towards us. Yeah, it's really good.
This is some really good stuff. And then Dazzler, who we see fighting the aforementioned plant monsters, which, I mean, I like Dazzler as a character. I think her mutant power is a little weird, but I like her as a character.
I think her mutant power is super cool, even though this just turns into lasers. Like, she doesn't have to make any noise, in here. So, Dazzler, for people who don't know, because she's not particularly, popular, is she can turn sound into light. And that's a super cool power. Even in the arcade game, she at least shouts when she throws her gigantic, power bomb.
I would have liked this a lot better if the plant monsters were screeching at her the entire time.
That would be awesome. And she turned it back on
something
them.
out of Bloodborne or Silent Hill or something.
That would have been awesome.
And then we get Nightcrawler, who is just being Nightcrawler. Everybody knows that dude. Mm-hmm. And then the last member is...
So we get Wolverine.
Wolverine, yeah.
Brown
and then the last
Wolverine,
member,
which I love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then Storm, who has
whose
a really cool...
we still don't understand, according to Xavier.
Yeah. We just don't fully understand. I'm like, no, I think we got it.
Yeah, I understand it. I can explain it to you. You already said it. You have it right.
I can probably quote the back of the trading card that explains it pretty well. Xavier, where are you at? So he introduces everybody and kind of what their power sets are, and goes to Cyclops and says, "Hey, Cyclops, I want you to meet somebody." Nightcrawler teleports up there, but could be a Nightcrawler, and scares the shit out of this 13-year-old girl who's never seen a blue elf in her entire life.
Well, Nightcrawler is kind of the gambit of this episode. He's not. I don't think he's necessarily pervin, but he's also not self-aware enough to understand that dude, this could be scary. Is this the first time you've met anyone? Does he not know he looks like that?
Nightcrawler has never seen a mirror. He just assumes everybody. He's assumed he just looks like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like in this. It is ridiculous. Dude, you're scary. It's okay. You're still a good person. You're
in. This was, I think, 80 something. What did we say? 1989.
Yeah.
What are you doing trying to kiss somebody's hand? What century are you from? Don't do that.
He's got the Germanist accent. That is because everybody leans into their accent really hard in this. Cyclops' voice is actually pretty good, I think.
Cyclops is alright.
That sounds like Cyclops to me. Professor X actually sounds fine.
Yeah, he's whatever.
Colossus
but Nightcrawler scares Kitty, and then she falls backwards, and that's where she beats the rest of the X-Men. That's where we start hearing all these people.
Oh, yeah, she phases through the computer, because that's her other thing. So Colossus is really he's good, And then Storm more or less sounds like Storm. It's fine. But then we get to Wolverine.
Oh my God, Wolverine!
And so the story of his accent. So there's kind of a twin mystery here. The story of his accent is because he was Australian in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon.
Okay.
So for some reason it's like they made a mistake and decided to roll with it. That's fine. The reason why he acts like this, I have no fucking clue. Just because he's Australian does not mean he shouldn't be able to growl out an entire word. He's choking with anger on everything he says, to where she shows up and she's like, "Hi, I'm Kitty Pryde," and everyone's really happy, and he just starts incoherently mumbling about no kids, just going into a ragegasm.
Fräulein, you left before I could properly welcome you.
Welcome her? Wait, she's not joining the X-Men, is she? She's just a kid.
It's really weird, man. He's just so angry at the sight of this, I guess, kid, right? She's supposed to be a 16-year-old girl at this point, and he's really, really angry at her. For no reason whatsoever. And that accent, Gary, it is so god-awful. Even for, if you're going to make him Australian, lean into it, but oh my God.
It feels like in Australia this would be a racist accent. or like an offensive accent. Like this would be used by Australian people to make fun of somebody. You know?
Oof.
Yeah. Woof, woof, woof.
I got totally distracted. I don't even know where we are in the story anymore because his accent is so bad. And I'll cut some audio samples of that throughout this because if you're not going to go to YouTube and watch the 22 minutes worth of episodes, and it's totally worth it to go do that. I'll at least have some samples in here for you.
And he also just uses really, like, again, the way that it feels like it would be offensive, uses Australian like slang constantly. Like he's just like, "Oh, you dingo, be an X-Men." You know, like another Barbie.
And we actually hear the word Barbie with Pyro a little bit later.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, doesn't everyone love a Barbie? And I'm like, where are you talking about? Who are your writers?
It's almost like if this were closed caption, they could just put Australian noises in parentheses under Wolverine's dialogue. Or like just a picture of the Australian flag in parentheses, and then that's it.
How are you just not doing... How is this voice actor not just doing a Crocodile Dundee impression at this point?
Idea.
And, like, making him real happy. Yeah, anyway.
So the mutant alert alarm goes off. They have a mutant alert alarm, is the name of it.
Yep, and we see the X-Men jump in a plane. Kitty says, "No, wait for me." And then the next scene is the plane leaving, and Xavier and Kitty still inside the Cerebro room or whatever. And that's when we learn that this was all a trick. Magneto has set off the mutant alarm somehow.
Yep, he pressed the big button with the M on it.
Yeah, he took the AA batteries out of the mutant alarm activate. I don't know what he did.
Well,
but he sends... Go ahead.
Or I was going to say, they're not quite as clueless as it first seems, because Cyclops says, like, maybe this is a trap. And Professor Xavier says, I've reprogrammed Cerebro to have defensive capabilities. Never mind the fact that, like, any of the Brotherhood could get past these. It's just laser turrets. Let alone the Juggernaut, who is the one who actually shows up, who is immune to lasers.
I have a special affinity towards laser turrets that pop out of the ground that have a little grass, basically.
A little haircut?
Yeah. I really, like, imagine those, just put 2 googly eyes on those, and you're having a fucking party, right? That's a great image.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Room for one more? Like, just table for one. Just,
Pew pew, baby, pew pew. So yeah, Magneto sends Juggernaut running towards the mansion because, hey, it can be an X-Men episode if you don't destroy the mansion. And at some point, Kitty gets scared, leans back, and fries some electronic. Fries the defensive circuit.
There's a lot of circuits going on.
There's a lot of circuits going on in this episode. The lasers turn off, which doesn't really matter because Juggernaut was literally just running past them 2 seconds before that. He breaks in, Magneto follows him, and Magneto is on the hunt for the mutant circuit.
Mutant power circuit.
Yes. Mutant power circuit, excuse me.
Yeah.
Xavier, doing what is just the most brilliant move ever, hands this very powerful device to a untrained, completely scared 16-year-old girl and tells her to run.
Yep.
From the most powerful supervillain on Earth.
What
are you doing?
It's also, well, the nice thing is Juggernaut shows up here, so we get a little bit of Juggernaut's accent, which is Bonesaw from Spider-Man. Where he's like, "Hey, brother, it's your stepbrother, Juggernaut."
I like that they do the stepbrother stuff, though. I mean, like, that's a good point. I mean, they spend, like, a good 10-15 seconds making sure we know, oh, yeah, they're related.
Yeah. And
I think Xavier even says at one point, like, you're welcome over here anytime.
Yeah.
Like, you can just come by and just knock on the door.
The way that Magneto gets the mutant power circuit from Kitty Pryde is pretty creepy, because the way he does it, he's like, yes, everything's fine. And he's using his power to make little worms come out, like worms of metal, come out of the wall, and it's really creepy. But then they zap her, and he gets the mutant power circuit and leaves. And
I like that they made a point of Kitty dropping the ball and then Magneto catching it at the last minute. Like, he waited until it was just about to hit the floor. Like, you could just see him go like, yes, inside of his head.
Yes, score. We get a little commercial break. Moving on to Act 2. It's called Act 2. We get a little Stan Lee narration to see the trap that the X-Men have gone and fallen through for, which is Pyro and the Blob holding up, or like they've kidnapped 2 people. Where are they? What is this?
I have no idea. I had no clue. Like, it's just some place somewhere, and then there's a cage around this family. Like
electronic zones.
Get this at all.
Like, it's like a command center for something.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. So they made a cage around these people, and they show up. The X-Men show up to fight them, and just Pyro and the Blob like no problem. But it's going to be one of the hostages goes like, one of them goes like, "What do you want?" And Blob says, "Nothing, just take over." Like, why are you such an idiot? Yeah,
because you can't be fat and smart at the same time.
It's true. You can't be
straight. The '80s cartoon.
Nope, you're a big bumbling moron. It reminds me of one of my favorite, the comic book Exiles, which is not great or anything, but in one of the alternate universes, down on his luck, Blob is making a living by walking into banks and just handing people a note that says, "I am a bulletproof mutant. Give me all your money." Which I really like that.
Good job.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. That's sad. So they get into a fight here, where it's going to kind of show the problem with this as far as the action scenes in this cartoon, where people just pair off in the worst ways. Where Colossus is just like, "I'll take care of it," runs up and then just gives the Blob a hug, trying to move him. But you can't move the Blob. That's his whole thing.
He's a friendly Russian. Like, what his whole thing is hugs. Very, very sometimes damaging hugs.
If you slowed that down, or if you made a gif of it, it would just look like somebody running up to hug their friend. Like, it's 100% the same animation.
It's like, I haven't seen you in a long time, Blob. Come on, where you been at?
Yep.
Ever since you joined the Brotherhood, we don't get to hang out anymore.
Yep. But they escape. They've done their job, distracted the X-Men. And the Nightcrawler hands the little doll back to the little girl, because he's being the charming, hand-kissing guy that he is. And the humans are all cruel to him and say, like, "Get away from a mutant." It's like,
yeah, the little girl is into it. The little girl is like, "Thank you so much." And her parents are like, "Fuck you, man. Get the hell away from our daughter. We don't know you."
Yep. Never talk to me or my daughter again. There it is. Then we go back to Asteroid M, and we're introduced to Toad, who sounds like Peter Lorre for some reason. And I have no idea why Toad is Peter Lorre. He's like, "Yes, master." It's like this the real sniveling.
Yeah, he's also got that weird servile, like, Igor thing happening that is just, it's just really bizarre.
It's very weird.
"Yes, master. Everything is ready, just as you ordered."
And they're going to put the mutant power circuit up in the ceiling, which he's the only one who has the power to do it, I guess.
He has the power of jump.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yep.
He's the only one that can jump up there. I do like that Lockheed is here for apparently no reason, and Magneto just kicks the shit out of him. Like, he's just in the way, and Magneto's like, "Fuck you," and kicks Lockheed.
There's no reason for a tiny dragon to be here. It's really strange.
It makes no sense. The only reason it's here is because, like, somebody decided, "Oh, it's Kitty Pryde. She has to have the dragon." Like, no, she doesn't. Like, just save that for episode 5. That could be a fun arc.
Yep.
She didn't start with the dragon. I promise you that.
Yeah. Yep. So he kicked. He's abusing Toad. He tells Toad to leave. And the team is back at the mansion, and everyone is understanding about this 13-year-old girl not defeating Magneto, except for Wolverine, who is really, really mad that she didn't win. By herself against Magneto and Juggernaut.
Wolverine has metal claws and has never ever fought Magneto in his life and won.
Yeah, and never will. Because again, this Days of Future Cast episode, boy, does Wolverine not get very much to do, because he does not do very much in this episode either.
Oh yeah, Wolverine doesn't get a whole lot of time to shine, except for his just horrible voice acting and a weird Australian accent.
Yeah.
So yeah, Xavier at this point says, "Oh hey, I'm also telekinetic," and then uses his brain power without Cerebro this time, and just goes and locates Magneto on Asteroid M, floating above the sky. Which, hey Professor, why do you need Cerebro?
Yeah, that is in space.
That is like, did you already know where Asteroid M is? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, doesn't matter. I love the parts where, and this happens in the comic book sometimes too, where the X-Men go to space and they have X-Men astronaut outfits.
Yep.
That is my jam. The astronaut outfits with the yellow X in the front. Dude, those are great.
Is it very famous arc when you read like Fatal Attractions, with the one where Wolverine actually tries to fight Magneto and doesn't go very well, is a really nice highlight for everyone wearing one of those outfits. And it's like super elaborate, like scratchy Jim Lee art during most of it. Like X-Men 25 is the issue. And it is very, very cool. So not Uncanny X-Men 25, X-Men 25 from the 90s. I love those spacesuits, and Kitty loves them too because she puts on one instantly in this episode a little bit later. So Xavier finds out Magneto's plan, which is to use the mutant circuit to capture a comet, because words have no meaning, and there's literally nothing that anything can't do in this cartoon.
I guess asteroids and magnetism, right? That's a thing.
I guess. So we move into Act 3. The X-Men are heading off to stop Magneto. Stan Lee is saying, "This is it, true believers. Like, there's a sense of urgency."
So bad.
For once,
all of Stan Lee's narration in this, I cannot stand. I normally kind of like Stan Lee as my only interactions with Stan Lee are cameos in the movies now. So besides being the stripper DJ in, I guess I probably shouldn't say that, but besides being weird in the Deadpool movie, like I'm fine with Stan Lee. This is just weirdly off-putting to me, though. It's
really phoned in. I mean, like, it just feels like he doesn't give a shit, and it doesn't really make sense with what's going on. Like, imagine this got picked up as a cartoon and this happened every episode. Yeah. So Kitty's like, I want to come too. And they say, Wolverine freaks out because no kid's joining the X-Men. And for once in his life, Professor Xavier is like, no, the Wolverine's probably actually right on this one. Like, you're 13 and we're going into space to fight a god. But Xavier knew she was coming. In fact, I feel like Xavier probably put the idea to come in her head.
Absolutely.
Like this, this is probably all part of his plan. So when they get to parking orbit, she's there.
Yeah, what is parking orbit?
AKA orbit. Like, I think all orbits are parking orbits.
Right. Like, they're the same. I'm not a space nerd or anything, but like, if you're in orbit, then okay.
You're parked for space.
And this is a good example of like these spacesuits that I love so much, because Cyclops, trying to get inside Asteroid M, just shoots his eye beams through like his little visor thing. So I guess nanoparticles or whatever, he can just shoot through the glass without any kind of Okay.
His concussive force goes through the glass, because that's not what concussive means apparently.
Yep.
Ugh.
And then there's a moment where Cyclops tells Wolverine to use his tracking power, which is a weird way, because in the comic books, it took a while for Wolverine to be established as having that super sense of smell or whatever. But I like the idea that it's just a tracking power.
Yeah, he has senses. He's like Caliban.
Yeah. Like, I'm just, okay, where's Cyclops' keys? Got it, follow me.
Boy, follow me, I found his keys. So this is one of the dumber, scenes in the thing where Magneto has spaced his different Brotherhood members like boss fights along the way. Like, I would not be surprised if you found out that the video game came first for this, because this plays so much like a game with a series of boss fights. But the X-Men just nonsensibly pair off. So Pyro is there and he's like, "Hey, Lav, I've got fire," and Dazzler's like, "I got this," and starts hitting him in the face with energy beams. She's got it on lock. Like, she could take him out at any time, just do a slightly bigger energy beam, or while this is happening, Colossus could knock him on the head. Anything could happen. Instead, though, she's just kind of out of the fight to be there so they didn't have to animate a big fight at the end. So she just kind of, zaps Pyro, and everyone moves on. And then the next thing, Toad pops down, and Wolverine's like, "I got this." Wolverine, after jumping around a little bit, causes a cave-in that traps Toad in the wall, but then rather than continuing along, Wolverine just hangs out by the wall. And that's it for Wolverine in this episode. It's really weird.
You don't want Toad to be loose. I mean, he's probably the most powerful mutant in this group. He's the underdog.
I mean, he could probably get out from rubble. I believe that. But at the same time, knock him on the head. Tie him up. You're superheroes, you do this shit. And this just keeps happening. People just kind of pair off. Kind of nonsensibly fighting.
Yeah, and then we get to the White Queen here, and we've seen the White Queen use her crazy telepathy powers to make soldiers believe that all their things, the road is water, basically. Mm-hmm. But here, she just doesn't do that.
No,
she just instead of doing that, she just makes a bolt and throws it at somebody. And I don't even remember who it was that takes her
Storm,
down. It's like a 2-second. Yeah, it's like a 2-second thing, and I'm like, why didn't you make Storm think that she was in a enclosed space?
Totally.
Or make Cyclops think about how he's never going to date another redhead again and have an end well. There's just a lot of different ways you can go here.
Maybe it is Cyclops that they pair up with. I can't remember, but it's just another dumb pairing. Here that doesn't make any sense until eventually just Nightcrawler's left and the Blob tries to stop him and he teleports past him. But he's Nightcrawler and he's fine. So they get to this final room. And this is where kind of Kitty's time to shine. It's good that she is here. because she kind of tricks Magneto. She uses her power, tricks Magneto into breaking the circuit, and then Nightcrawler like teleports to connect the circuit. But because of really dumb science, like they are now in control and can use Magneto's power or something like that. Like this makes no sense at all.
Yeah, number one, Nightcrawler has to stay to keep, because Kitty tricks Magneto to break the circuit, the mutant power circuit. So then nothing's going to happen. But the asteroid or whatever is still on the course to hit the Earth. So then Nightcrawler, at Xavier's orders, because he's still communicating with them telepathically a million miles away, says, Nightcrawler, go up there and complete the circuit. So he just holds both sides of a wire and it just starts working, right? Like that's completing the circuit, which makes no fucking sense.
And it's not, I'm not an electrician, right? But like the wire that connects two things isn't the thing that controls the device. Like all Nightcrawler is doing is connecting the circuit. That doesn't mean he controls the computer part of it. Like my mouse cable is not what controls the video game I'm playing or me. Like the mouse cable is just the thing that it just transmits information. It has no power. All Kitty does here is knocks Magneto on a particular panel, which I wouldn't think was even that important, and then all of a sudden they can control Magneto's powers to move the asteroid away. It makes no sense at all.
No fucking sense.
And Lockheed gets his revenge against Magneto, I think, at some point, distracts him.
Yeah, at some point, Magneto has kicked Lockheed again, and then at this point, Lockheed comes in and bites him on the ankles or something, because he forgets that he has fire. I don't know what's happening.
Animal cruelty gets hurt, gets punished, which is good.
And so at this point, we're in a dire situation, because if Nightcrawler leaves, the circuit deactivates, and Magneto tells them, well, that if you deactivate the circuit, the asteroid will just go right back into Earth again, which is not how anything works in the real world, but okay, yeah, sure. So they all leave, and at the last minute, Nightcrawler teleports off the asteroid, and the asteroid hits the Scorpio asteroid, hits Asteroid M and blows it up. Nightcrawler is then in free fall in space, headed towards Earth, and they have to use grappling hooks.
They say they're grappling beams, which really bothers me, because they're so clearly not beams. They're like little, tentacle arms that are sending out. So, and this is not how Nightcrawler's powers work. He doesn't get to see something on a view screen and then teleport to it, because then he could do anything. He has to see it in real life. But here he can teleport via view screen. He kind of fucks up. They use these little grappling arms, bring him back in. Apparently they get nothing. Xavier is on the ship, so Xavier would know if Nightcrawler's dead. He acts like he's dead, and I think he just does it to emotionally manipulate the team.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because he's
otherwise,
just
why would he teleport into the closet? Why would he just teleport on the deck?
And why does Xavier not know that if he's searching for Nightcrawler? But he's just no, he's gone. But then Nightcrawler is in the closet, surprise, alive.
This is totally just a learning tool for Xavier. Xavier just wants to teach everybody a lesson about grief or something. I don't or for a ship or some shit. None of this makes sense at all.
Yeah. So everybody loves Kitty Pryde at this point. She's this whole thing is building up to her being useful and being able to be an X-Men. She apologizes to Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, takes it with grace, and Wolverine's like, "Oh, she can't join the X-Men yet." And dun dun dun. But he's still I can't imagine watching a cartoon where this is Wolverine's characterization and voice.
Not at all.
No,
yeah, I can definitely see why this was never developed.
It sank the pilot. I don't know if it actually did, but it could have.
Well, what really sunk the pilot was the RoboCop Mafia, who realized that they were missing the 13th episode.
Just never will find out what happened to the weird applesauce that he eats.
The RoboCop animators came and broke some fucking knees, is what I'm saying. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's just... seriously, we've said it before. If you have 22 minutes of spare time, put this on in the background on your TV while you're doing something and watch. Even if you don't have that, go listen to the theme song, which you've already listened to because I've cut it in. But man, it's such a weird thing that exists. And I'd never really gotten into the late 70s, early 80s cartoons.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was a whole universe of Spider-Man and his friends and Spider-Woman. I guess I knew that stuff existed, but I didn't know it was a whole universe of stuff that was there. So I'm kind of interested in tracking some of that down.
There's only kind of a big universe. It's mostly just kind of spins off from Spider-Man. And Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is not worth watching. Like, even the episode, like, if you like X-Men, you should watch A Firestar is Born, the X-Men crossover episode, just because you get to see some weird characterization of some X-Men, but, like, it's not a very good show. You know, in the 90s show, for all of its faults, like, is significantly better. You know, there's a reason why we're dedicating our lives to that. I don't know if
and not any other animated series.
Yeah, you know, at least not the 70s one. But yeah, so that's our little diversion that we're doing. Next episode, what are we covering?
We are covering Till Death Do Us Part 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we're not. I was looking at the wrong place. We are covering Days of Future Past, Part 1 and Part 2, and then The Final Decision, which is the last 3 episodes of Season 1.
Yeah.
So that'll be our episode 4, and then if you guys out there listening like this show, please let us know. These first 4 episodes are kind of a pilot for us. They're in the Duckfeed Presents channel, and if y'all like it, please let us know. You can go to duckfeed.tv/contact, I'm guessing, and let us know that, or you can let us know in the Slack channel, which if you go to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv, you can donate $2 and come hang out and talk with Gary, with myself, and with, hundreds of other people, Gary. Yeah. Like, every other day I see, like, more people show up, and I'm like, who are these people? Where do they come from?
Yeah, but they're all great.
$2 a month gets you in the Slack, and you can come chat with us and let us know what you do or do not like about the X-Men.
Yeah, and so this is, you know, like I said, the first season of this is definitely coming out. The second season will be a little bit dependent on Patreon stuff. So we're trying to find a way to do more stuff, but that is always, you know, as we always talk about on the main shows, like, that is a financial concern. Like, even a show like this, which you know, doesn't require playing an entire game, still requires a lot of preparation, and so you know who you're listening to this. Jeremy edits this, and it's a lot of work. So it is significant, and in order to be able to do that and take that time to do these things, you know, support is appreciated. So this, thank you for checking out this first season. We still have an episode to go, and then the future of the show is in your hands. I don't mean that as an ultimatum or a threat. I just mean that as a fact of chronology. Yeah, if you the other thing you can do, if you like this, other than letting us know and supporting us on Patreon, is that Duckfeed Presents, getting more people to know about Duckfeed Presents and kind of the stuff we're doing, so tell people about it. Blog it, tweet it, all those things are really appreciated too, and that's going to help. Yeah, I think that's probably about it.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at JG Greer. Gary, you're on Twitter.
I am, at GaryBuh, GaryBuh. And, yeah, hit us up on there and talk about X-Men. Tell us why you like Angel.
Yeah, come argue with us about Angel.
Yep.
We'll win, but you can try.
If you think superheroes like me can fight all your battles for you, think again. Voting for your local, state, and federal representative lets you choose who's on your side in all the issues we face today. The little ones, the really big ones too. But before you can vote, you need to register, so do it now. For registration forms or information on how to register, visit your local participating video store. Have a voice in your future. Register. Vote. And Tom Spider-Man.